We're going to talk about Risk of Rain 2 because it's a game that I really enjoy. It's a game that I really like. Currently, if you need to know, I have 6 characters now because I was playing all the DLC characters to rank them up. They're all on Eclipse 7 now. So I have 6 characters total that I need, including loader. So it's going to be one really easy one. 6 characters total that I need to beat Eclipse 7 with. And then we're good to do the marathon stream. Or I can't end stream until I beat Eclipse 8 on every single character. So that stream is closer than it's ever been. So Risk of Rain 2 and Risk of Rain 1, both are very loved games. Why are they very loved games? Because they were made by a really tiny company called Hopu Games. And it was just a couple of dudes, and they made a really good game, and we all loved it. And they even made their first DLC, Survivors of the Void. And then, out of nowhere, they sold their game to Gearbox. And this was a very, very important time in Risk of Rain 2's history. Because they're like, what? They sold Risk of Rain to Gearbox? Why did they do that? And people had mixed feelings about Gearbox. Because if you don't know Gearbox, they're a very old company. Like, so old, a lot of people probably don't know this. They made 007 Nightfire. That's a GOAT game. 007 Nightfire was awesome. And then they went on to do a lot of Brother in Arms games. And then the other games that they're really known for is Borderlands. And that's a very contentious thing because the first few Borderlands, pretty good. And I mean first few as in Borderlands 1, 2, and then Tales of the Borderlands. And then all the other things they made, but kind of mixed. It was a pretty mixed bag of people, worried and then also hopeful about Gearbox. Because again, Gearbox has done cool things, but also they're a bigger company. So are they just going to buy Risk of Rain 2 and then they're going to monetize it, whatever. And they released the DLC and it is not just bad, it is unplayable. Like, I am not kidding when I say this. It was unplayable. If you were playing on PC, your game was tied to your FPS, meaning that if you had a better performing computer, everything happened faster. But also enemies would spawn faster. And if you played on a lower FPS, you would move slow. Like, it was like everything was tied to FPS. And it was because they had tried, they wanted to bridge the console version of the game and the PC version of the game together so that they could update them both at the same time instead of having to release a DLC here and then the DLC doesn't come out for, whatever. They tried to do that and people were literally forced down patching their game to play without because also they updated the entire game to have this new patch regardless of whether you bought the DLC. So everybody had to play on the new patch that tied everything to FPS. It was insane. And then if you played on console, the game just didn't work. You got to the title screen and it got nowhere. It just didn't work. And during this, 2 days afterwards, the CEO of Gearbox went on some big show, like the Game Awards or whatever, some big show to announce their new game that they were working on, but also said, we got this new DLC for Risk of Rain 2 that's super good and it's awesome and everybody's loving it and playing it right now. When everybody was saying it's on fire, it's not playable. Console was also wiping people's save files. There was so much, right? It was a fucking nightmare. Once the game, they actually hot patched the game and the items, which is a big thing in Risk of Rain 2. If you don't know what Risk of Rain 2 is, it's a third-person over-the-shoulder shooter roguelike. You kill dudes, you get money, and then you open up chests. And the chests have items in them. And as they come out with new items, and they come out with new DLCs, the items have to synergize, right? So you might get an item that says, if the enemy's above 90% health, deal damage. And then another item that says, deal 20% increased damage. But if you fall below 25% health, this damage breaks and you never get this item back. But when you have these two items together, they stack multiplicatively and not additively. So your damage with multiple different damage items can go crazy. Same thing with movement speed. Same thing with all this stuff. Synergize, right? And then they come out with new items that are like, when an enemy hits you, it might knock them up. What does that knock up to? Nothing. Are they stunned in the air? No. The enemy's weakness is actually when you're in the air because it's easier to aim when you're shooting down at them. So an enemy that has projectiles, when they shoot at you while they're in the air, they have a better chance at hitting you. It made the game harder. It actually made you get hit more. And all of the items were like that, where they didn't synergize at all with what was actually in the game. And the problem with that is, in the game, they can't increase the amount of loot that you get per run. So it ended up just poisoning the loot pool and you would get just nothing but shitty items. You would just get nothing but terrible items and you would have runs that couldn't win because you wouldn't have items. And so if you're going to have these new items in the game, you need to have them synergize with the old items because it's either you stack up 1 billion of really good items or you have a mix of different items that all synergize together and they stack multiplicatively. And so then when they stack multiplicatively, you're then still making it better overall. And so all of the creators that had said, oh, wait until you see what happens with the DLC, like we got to wait and see and have hopes with Gearbox, every single one of them said, I am no longer going to trust Gearbox. Gearbox is dead to me. I hate them. This is dog. This is terrible. And then Gearbox went to the damn drawing board and they came back and they said, wait a minute. And they came out with this big roadmap. Phase 1. And they got this out relatively quickly. They reworked every single item that they had just added. And they made every single item really good. And some of them had to get changed. Some of them had to get nerfed. Some of them had to get adjusted. They're really good now. And they also had to change elites because, again, there was a lot of things that they added to the game that were broken. Like the new elite that they added had like more health for some reason. It was terrible. Then they updated the Fall Sun boss. This was an optional boss that you had to go to, but this was the big one. Could they finish the roadmap strong? Because the new survivors that came out, they were all really weak, except for False Sun, who was kind of like overpowered, but like in a way that wasn't really fun. And it was like really slow and chunky, but like mid, but like weird, and like had a bunch of bugs. And you could like, had this like really powerful laser that comes from his face, but you could like have it run permanently if you just like pressed a button, either way. But also the main thing was Chef, this guy right here. Chef was from Risk of Rain 1 and everybody wanted him. They were like the fan favorite character, just the goofy little guy. And they wanted him to come back in Risk of Rain 2 and he never did until this DLC, and everybody got really excited. And then Chef came out and Chef was by far the worst character in the game, in the entire game. When they finally updated Chef and all the other characters, the other two characters, they're really good. So they fixed everything, right? And like that is saying something, right? That's got to say something for like, you work at a larger company, you have a bunch of people over your head forcing you to push out a thing by the date that you have to get it out. No Man's Sky, Hello Games or whatever it's called, had a terrible release of No Man's Sky because the corporate overlords that they worked under were like, Sony, hey, we're Sony, we need you to release this game now. And they're like, it's not ready. They're like, we don't care, release it. And then they released it, and then they got a bunch of backlash, and they said, we're gonna make the game good for free. We're never gonna charge you anything else. And they did that with this DLC. And it sucks that they released this DLC unplayable, and the CEO came on stage and said, go buy the game, because then it made everybody lose respect for them, lose hope for them. But now they fixed everything, and it's really good now. Like, I crave playing Risk of Rain 2 more than I ever have. It's really good. And then recently, right as they were done with this DLC, right, May 5th, they released that they're doing another DLC. Another DLC. And everybody goes, ooh, no, shit, I don't know if I like that. Until June 9th, they released this. And now it's really hard for me not to root for the Risk of Rain 2 devs again, because they said we're going to do this in a 3-step process. We're going to hire some of the best content creators of Risk of Rain 2, which, by the way, throughout this entire problem with everything going on, every single time that they go to make a change, all of the major content creators get to play the game early and give their genuine feedback. All of the content creators like Raydans and Race and Disputed Origin, they all get to play the game behind the scenes and give genuine feedback, and then their feedback is actually taken into account. And now with this new DLC, they said they're hiring some of the biggest modders, like Starstorm 2, one of the most loved mods, Fogbound Lagoon, one of the best map mods, and Silly Items, which is just like a goofy item mod that just makes the game more fun and goofy and silly. To hire the modders is like, it's peak. It's awesome. I've played Silly Items. It's sick. Yeah, goofy eyeballs and skins and like what it's fun. To hire these people, it's something that The Binding of Isaac did in their most recent DLC. They took a DLC and they're like, we want to make this an official port of the game, so let's work together and let's make it. And now they're like official devs of the game. And like to do this, like I think that this is really cool. And then step 2, we need the perfect soundtrack. They hired one of the talented musicians of one of the previous Secrets of the Storm update, and the main guy that everybody loves, Christodoulou, whatever, I can't ever say this guy's name, literally said that this is some of the best. Trust me when I tell you, it's full of bangers. So if Chris says it's gonna be good, I trust that. Either way, that's not even a step that I care about. Step 3, on top of the modder and Stavros, we brought all 2 new people we previously worked on Risk of Rain 2. Firstly, prolific Risk of Rain 1 and 2 modders, Sivlos, who wrote the majority of the log entries. So the lore is gonna get majorly updated. And lastly, one of the co-creators of Risk of Rain 2, Jeffrey Gorehunt, is also going to be rejoined for the Alloyed Collective. They're literally bringing on one of the original creators of the game. That's insane. So not only is it new music, new lore, co-creators of the game, top modders, they're still looping in content creators with like all the new gameplay and everything like that to make sure that they enjoy it and that they're going to be able to promote, quote unquote, their game through their content and everything like that. They're basically assembling the Avengers. Yeah, and so now I can't help but root for them. Like, they've got me hopeful again. And I want to believe in this now. He fell for it. No, I actually did. And I'm gonna buy this shit. Day one. It really feels like they had to hang their heads between their legs from the last DLC that may or may not have had some corporate overlord pushing them to release it. And it just seems like they accepted the criticism and they accepted their faults so well that I want to trust them again. I don't know. I'm really hopeful for Risk of Rain 2 right now. If you haven't played this game, it's one of the best roguelikes that exists. It's in my top 5. It's in my top 5 roguelikes, up there with the greats like Slay the Spire and Monster Train and Splunky 2. If you haven't played Risk of Rain 2, you should definitely, but that's not even a part of this. I don't care if you play the game or not. I'm just really happy that a game that I have 700 hours in is getting the love that it deserves, because it sucks when your game is bought by a larger company and you get nervous, and then your nerves get confirmed. And so for them to now give me some hope feels really good. And I want to, even though, and I think it's good to call out all the negative and to call people on their bullshit, but I think that if you're going to call people on their bullshit, you also need to give them a tip of your hat whenever they rectify the bullshit, and especially when they continue to do good things after that, regardless of whether you still trust them to like spend your money or whatever.
He's an arsonist on a noble quest to escape the wrath of the IRS. He's got conflicting positions in the endless fight for queer folks and